Hey everybody, this is Modern Refugee. If anybody is out there tonight, can you let me know that you can hear me all right? Still paranoid after that one instance. Hey there, Mid-State Prepper. How you doing today? Hey there, Monkey Food Garden. How's everything going in Louisiana? Got to ask you this, being in Louisiana. Hey there, Melissa. Got to ask this for Louisiana. Um, when do they harvest rice down there? When is the rice harvesting season? If you know, I would really appreciate that. I'd like to know. Hey there, Bailey. Hey, Library Lizard. Patriot Preacher. How you doing? Hey, Mother Refugee. Mr. Mark. How are the crops coming along? Pretty darn dry around here. I see some of the winter wheat is up too. Hey there, Blonde. Hello from Idaho. Got them from Louisiana to Idaho all over tonight. Awesome. Not 100% sure. Yeah, I we when we drove through Wisconsin, they actually had a massive like series of rice fields, and we didn't know what they were at first, and then we seen the sign, that they were like growing it for like Riceland rice or something like that, and I'm like, wow, I didn't realize that they grew rice in places like northern Wisconsin. Mark says soybeans are done. Last load was 10% moisture. What's the Mark? What's the moisture content that is really the best? If it's like corn, I suppose the lower the moisture, the better. Hey there, Sunset. Matthew, Dangerous Freedom, how you doing? Patriot Preacher, they just harvested soybeans across the road and now are planting must be winter wheat. Yep. I was actually told that the red wheat that they plant around here by us is the white wheat is of a higher quality than the red wheat. Hello, Anonymous Prepper. How are you? Any of you guys catch my little GMRS video that I did there this morning? I'm going to touch base on a little bit on that. 13 is considered dry. 10 was way low. Lots of spills. 13 to 15 is good, or lots of splits. Okay, so you want a certain amount of moisture, and so they're not so dry that they split. Okay, that makes perfect sense. That makes perfect sense. And I'm going to ask you one more question, Mark. On the wheat, what is it? It's the vomitoxin. Is that what that's what they test for? And you want that vomitoxin at a really low, you want that at a really low amount for the quality of the wheat. You got to let me know if I got my information right there. I'm doing okay, Anonymous Prepper. I'm just waiting for this knee surgery. My knees are killing me. The one in particular, I got a heck of a time just pulling my jeans on in the morning to go to work. Mark Torba, that is correct. That's what I thought with that vomitoxin, that's something that they look for there in the wheat. Monkey Food Garden. We are in cattle country in our area. Many cattle for our farms. Growing beef. Yeah, beef is everybody was complaining in some of my videos this week about beef prices going up, but I haven't noticed anything where we are at here. Is wheat sprayed with chemicals when to dry? No. They they won't even accept anything like that here at the local co-ops and the elevators. That was something that I guess that they did with beans, that they would spray something on the beans to kill them so they could harvest them quicker. But I've seen signs at the actual co-op that says, or at the different co-ops around here, they'll say, if you've done that with your beans, we absolutely will not accept your product. So I'm not sure where they do that and they accept that. I don't know if they do that in foreign countries, but around here they do not do that, Sunset, at least not to my knowledge anyway. And like I said, if you can't take your grain or beans to the co-op, you really got no place to take them. So, hey Dana, hey Rip Curl, how you doing, my friend? Mother Refugee, yeah, I'm getting my knee scraped. Yeah, I have a bad torn meniscus, have had it for years, and they said there is no blood flow in cartilage, so it will never heal, which makes absolute sense. My wife and I had both knees done, not really that bad, would just not recommend doing both the same. Yeah, I'm not going to do both. One's hard enough. Speaking of meat, I was called a hoarder today by finding 5 packages of chicken that was 50% each by a person who had half a cart of garbage food. Yeah, that's ridiculous. You should have told them, hey, I got a big family, or better yet, tell them I got a graduation party or something. Give them some line of BS. That way they get off your back a little bit. Besides, 5 packages of chicken, that's nothing. I mean, I'm sure like in these big, like Sam's and Costco's, packages of chicken are probably what 5 packages of chicken are at the regular grocery store. They actually had chicken at the local meat fruit market here. I want to say it was $24.99 for a 10-pound bag, which is $2.50 a pound, which isn't too bad. That's actually a good price for boneless, skinless chicken breast, because then you can can that, and you have, that's what you have the least amount of waste on typically if you want to can it. Ground beef sale at our local grocery store was $7.99. Beef prices are crazy. Yeah, I'm still seeing like between $4 to $6 a pound. $6 a pound is the real good stuff, and the ground chuck has been around $4 a pound. And I haven't bought any, except for what we did for the baby shower. We bought quite a bit for that, but that was just a larger quantity. We got a little better quality for that, so then that cost a little bit more. I was surprised people are getting more weird by the day. Yeah, people are, and I hate to say this, but people are just, I don't want to say dumb, but people are kind of dumb. I mean, some of the questions that I get asked now on a daily basis, they're just like, I don't know how people even got to the age that they're at, some of them. Anyway, that's a whole nother thing. Yeah, both knees scooped and replaced. We need any advice? Glad to answer the questions. I appreciate that. Anyway, if anybody caught my GMRS video today, I was talking about these radios right here, and actually I had a couple people ask me. That's what they look like right there. I had a couple people ask me what the range was on these, and Mother Refugee and we tried that out this afternoon. In town here, where we're located, we have buildings, we have grain elevators, we have large metal buildings. There's farms around here, there's barns, a lot of large pole barns around here that double as businesses and stuff. And we got a perfectly clear signal in about a 2.5 mile radius right here in town where we live. And then out in the country, it was about between 5 and 7 miles with the flatness of the farmland that's around here. We don't have too many obstructions other than stuff like silos, grain elevators, large pole barns, stuff for farming operations. But we got about a good 5 to 7 miles out of these. And I was actually standing inside a building most of the time when we were recording, or when we were talking back and forth. So that's about how far we got with this one here. And of course, Amazon did me a heck of a favor. I put a link in the description for you guys of that video. And yeah, I got an email, and right after a couple people texted me, or not texted me, but said in the comments, hey, they say they're out on the link. So of course, the first thing that I put up on my Amazon store for you guys to look at, Amazon ran out of it. So I found another link for a very similar radio. It's got a little bit different model number, but from what I could tell, it was the same radio. It just has a shorter antenna on it. So I did put that link in the video, so you guys got something at least that you can look at. And I wanted to show you what came in the box for these guys here. Need to can up a few dozen hamburger meat. Oh yeah, hamburger meat is nice for a lot of different things. You can make stews, you can put it in chili, you can put it in spaghetti sauce, makes it a lot quicker. You got a manual that comes in here, and that's how they come in. Each radio comes in a box like that, and it's got a charging port. And these guys use the new C charging cords that plug right in the radio, so you don't even need the charging port. And then it's got some push to talks, and then it has the smaller antenna. And that other link that was in there, that was a smaller antenna as well. So that was the stuff that came with this. But these charging ports, now that I got that where I can plug in on that C charging cord, that's all that I'll ever use, because I'll just charge the battery on the unit itself and call that good. Plus, I can charge it in my vehicle now. I don't have to actually be plugged into electricity, which is awful nice. Dangerous feed, and we get about 2.5 out here in East Tennessee. I guess I missed what the 2.5 was, but Rip Curl, sorry to hear about my knee. Yeah, my knee is just, it's been bugging me for years, but now that my wife's been hospitalized a couple times this year, the deductibles met, so we're trying to get done as much stuff as possible. Danes, that's my favorite style of Baofeng. I really like this one. This one's much better than the UV5R. It's got a better display on it. I thought it's got a lot crisper sound to it, and the regular UV5Rs, even though wasn't supposed to use them, I tried them, and in a wooded area, we could get like 1.5 miles, and that was it. I couldn't get anything further. But then that was with the little short antennas. Them UV5Rs, you really got to have a longer antenna on it. And yeah, I actually keyed up some of the GMRS frequencies on there. I know you're not supposed to do that, but I'm still learning, so one way or another. Hudson Valley Prepping and Survival. How are you doing, sir? You guys getting that same crazy heat that we're getting here? It was 89 degrees here today. I can't believe it. We're considered in northern Michigan, and it was 89 degrees on the 4th of October, and was the first day of duck hunting. So everybody was out on the lake today, pounding away on the ducks, and all the ducks and geese are sitting in the winter wheat fields, because the winter wheat is up about this high right now. So I'm not sure what they got out there on the bay, but I'm sure it wasn't much. MR, how many feet of snow do you typically get each winter? It depends. I would say anywhere between 20 inches and 2 feet and 3 feet is about what we get in a year, but we get a lot of thaws. So we might get 14 inches of snow in a snowstorm, and then in 2 weeks it thaws down to hardly down to nothing. Then the ground will be clear for a few days, and then all of a sudden we'll get another 6 inches or something. So it fluctuates back and forth. Very, very rarely do we have more than 3 feet on the level. Green Bean asked me a question. Mother's keeping me here. I got to look back what it was. Let's see here. I was salmon fishing today in New York in a t-shirt, 76 degrees. In the northern part of New York, there where you're at, Hudson Valley, is it like mountainous there? Do you have like a lot of elevation, 3-4 feet? How does that work? Eli in the Wolverine State. Yes, I am in what is called the Thumb of Michigan. I'm still looking for Green Bean's question here. I guess I'm missing it. So Green Bean, if you're out there, hit me with another question, because I don't see it. Rip Curl. As luck would have it, though, I rolled my ankle stepping out of my rig yesterday. Oh, rolling your ankle is hard. Let's see here. See if I can find a question. Mother Refugee, she does a great job of moderating for me. Do you plant cover crops in the fall to amend your garden, and what do you add to your garden beds to amend them? I use the compost that I make, and I typically will put the compost in when I'm planting stuff in the spring, and my compost consists of all the scraps from the vegetables that we grow. Coffee grounds is another one, and I will use what they call brown. Green and brown is kind of how you divide up the stuff in your composter. The brown would be like dead dry leaves, and green would be pretty much anything. It doesn't necessarily have to be green, but would be any vegetable scraps, anything like that. And then if I could get any type of composted manure, chicken manure, anything like that, I will put that in. I typically will put that, especially if I'm planting starts, I will work that up. I will put the compost in there, and then I will plant the start on that. Sometimes if I can get a lot of leaves in the fall, I will spread the leaves over, and then I'll have my neighbor come over and work them in with his small tiller that he's got on the back of his tractor. That's the whole kind of bartering with neighbors things. But those are the things that I like doing. I have very clay soil, so in this kind of weather, when it's so hot and dry, the soil is almost like cement. But in the spring, when the soil's got more moisture in it, it is actually pretty loose. Churn Dash Farm, the high here was 89 in Texas. Yeah, we're as hot as Texas. That's absolutely crazy. Just got a couple Baofeng K5 pluses. Anybody had any luck with them? Kimberly, mine are GMRS radios, and I actually like them. The only thing with them is you have to have the license to legally use them. And I think I paid $35 last December, and it took about a week. They gave me the call sign. And I don't really like paying to use the airwaves. It's just like everything else. It's like, hunting and fishing licenses, you have to pay the government to hunt and fish stuff that occurs naturally. For your CPL, you have to buy your rights back from the government, to carry your sidearm to protect yourself. Anything that normal people would need or use or would be common sense, you have to basically buy all those rights back from .gov. And while I don't agree with it, I don't think it's right at all. And that's the pay to play of America. And I want to be able to use these radios to the max and not get some FUDs on there yelling at me constantly because I'm using them. So that's kind of the way it is. But I don't agree with it at all. I think it's idiotic that you have to pay for stuff that occurs naturally, and to use, and just like using the airwave, just like that one rich guy that said that everybody should be charged for water. Water is water shouldn't be free for everybody. And that sounds like an arrogant rich prick if I ever heard one. Anyway, hello from Indiana. Be spooky. Love your Cobra sign there. That's kind of cool. Vicinator, we are doing well preparing moms. Oh, I hope mom's doing good there, Vicinator. I hope everything turns out all right. Mike lives in one of the beautiful places in the country, Sunset. Yeah, I've been told that upstate New York is actually really, really good. Yes, Green Bean, I have added sand to my soil. I actually have some sand out in our woods, and I will bring several 5-gallon pails of sand, and slowly but surely I've been adding sand. There was one year that I actually shoveled a bunch into the back end of my truck. I could get my truck back in there, and I spread that out. And my one garden bed is actually really good now, but I've been working on that for like 13, 14 years, where the other one's only been like about 7 years that I'm working at. And the one in the back, we always have problems with deer coming in there. So I only usually plant potatoes, onions, and garlic back there because the deer won't eat those. The deer pretty much eat everything else that we have around here. So that's why I saved that bed in the back specifically for those things. Took a ham license test last spring. I think you would enjoy a course. Uncle Bumble has looked at a couple of different courses here locally, and if we can ever get our schedules to align up, I might tag along if he goes to one of those things and start looking into like whatever the basic ham license is. It just expands the frequencies that you can broadcast on. Yeah, I hope everything goes good there, Vic. Any advice on getting rid of goat heads, animal safe? I guess anything that the old timers buried, and anything that we buried here, when like mom would take, she'd butcher like 18, 25 chickens, whatever, we would dig large holes in the sand. And if it was a really big job like cattle or something like that, if somebody was butchering a steer or a cow fell and broke a leg or something, couldn't be taken to market, we would dig a hole with like a backhoe and then put the stuff in there because we could bury it as deep as we possibly could. Ham Radio Prep website is a fantastic course. It's been worth the money so far, and that's what I've been told, that there are several different places you can get on. You can get online to kind of go over the information. A good friend of mine took us to a class last fall, and I thought it was going to be more of a technical type class, and it turned out it was a guy who was in the preparedness game, and he was setting up repeaters locally so people could get news, and then he was kind of charging for them as a service. And he had another radio there. It wasn't a Baofeng, it was a different brand that was pre-programmed to get into his repeaters. So, and basically that repeater, he would like read news every, I don't know, it was set to relay the news like every 15 minutes or something like that. And they were talking a lot about Ukraine, Eastern Europe, and that kind of stuff on there. Just paid $35. It's good for yeah, and that's the GMRS license is good for 10 years for everybody in the family. So my plan is all the adult children and my wife, mother refugee, and myself, and maybe I'll keep one of these at work as well because they're not that expensive, and keep them in our vehicles. So, when we're around town here, if something happens to the cell phones, we'll have communications, and that'll just be our go-to. If the cell phones don't work, we can't get any information through phone calls or texts, we're going to pop on there. I'll have them pre-set up to whatever channel I think we should be on, and then everybody can get on there. Scottish Prepper, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Manaska is taking off in the UK ATM. You're I've heard that there's a lot of problems going on right now in the UK as far as civil unrest and stuff like that. Is that Scottish? Is that kind of how it is going? Like I said, I've seen where they're really like cracking down on people for like you can't even say anything on online and stuff, that they want to like give you problems from all that stuff. And I don't understand. That doesn't seem like that is a Western country whatsoever, but that just seems how everything is going. It's no different here. They want to curtail everything you want to say. I mean, it's the same thing with YouTube, and like my videos, I can do a video where it's showing practical information that gets no views. But if I would do, hype videos, like what I call hype videos anyway, I would get a lot more views. But then again, what good is that? What good is that for people? Get people worked up for, some event or whatever. It's crazy. But Scottish, I really appreciate you, sir. With uncontrolled immigration, people are fed up. I can understand that. I can understand that. I don't live that far from the Canadian border right here. I'm as far from the Mexican border as possible, and you would not believe all the immigrants that are up here where we're at. You just would not believe it. I mean, I was saying that at work today. I should go back to school and take a couple classes in Spanish, because you know what? I would use them. I would literally use them. I'm not going to say daily, but I'm going to say weekly. I would use that information. I'm getting all kinds of contractors and people and stuff up here that don't speak any English or speak very, very little English. We had some deliveries this week that were supposed to go from, the big box stores. We had it was like a 70-year-old Spanish couple that couldn't read any English, and they could only speak Spanish, and they were trying to deliver groceries to a hardware store because they couldn't read the map or the instructions on the app that they gave them. It just blew my mind. I'm standing out here at like 6 o'clock at night trying to explain to an elderly Spanish couple not to take groceries into our hardware store. I mean, it's like I'm living in crazy world. Oh, Raymond Pinkerton. Hi, everyone. Pinkerton, like Pinkerton Security. That's cool. There were hundreds of thousands of protesting in London, and that's just it. If there's a protest or something, there is, they don't broadcast the protest. So I appreciate that, Linda. I hope that I am a value to you guys. You stand a better chance of jail time for hurt feelings with Facebook than you do robbing a house, and that's what a backwards world we live in. The best way to program the Baofeng is Chirp. I have heard that it's a free download. I want to say Uncle Bumble has messed around with that Chirp, but he actually showed me his Jeep this week. He has got a really nice little setup that he made for his Jeep to actually hold his Baofeng kind of off to the side of his dashboard. I thought it was pretty cool. If I ever get a different truck, I might look at his setup there and get something like that to keep mine. I've just been throwing mine in the cup holder, but I have been an hour from the Mexican border for a couple of years. Just moved this summer. It was getting bad. My mom, when she was like in her late 20s, she went with relatives, her uncle and stuff, my grandfather's brother. She went down to like Brownsville, Texas. And what is across there? Was it? I can't think of the name. Is it Matamoros? Anyway, the town that's across from Brownsville, Texas. they would just go over the border and have stuff to eat, shop at the little markets and stuff, the outdoor markets, whatever, and then they would just go back. There was never any violence. There was never any problems in these border towns and stuff. And another person I know, they were in Arizona, and this was like back in the early 1980s. They would go see their relatives in Arizona, and they would go down, I think they said Nogales, and they would go there. That was the same thing. There wasn't any problems with anything. And now, just in the last 20 years, everything has just exploded, with violence and drugs and everything else. It's just insane. Also true. All we can do is simplify our lives, become self-sufficient. Yeah, and that's the most defiant thing you can do, is become self-sufficient. Rely on the system and the grid as little as possible. Where you have to, you have to. But then, if you can avoid and get out of it, where it's economically feasible for you, then do that. Yeah, Portland's been crazy for years already. Hi, anyone. Can anyone purchase the Silcock key? I'd like to get one. Tammy, go to the hardware store, go to whatever hardware stores that you have there where you're at. Go to the plumbing section. Most hardware stores will have Silcock keys of different varieties in the plumbing section, and ask for it. And if that hardware store has a website, go on there to show the people that work there at the store what they look like, because they probably don't sell a lot of them, and you can show them what they look like. So that would help out a lot. And like I said, the ones we have around here are literally like $4, $5. They're not very expensive at all. Yeah, plus you can get them off Amazon. I think I threw the one that I showed in that video on Amazon too, if you want to just hop on there and get one too. And yeah, I've been using Spanish on my iPhone too when I do like deliveries and stuff, because all the farm laborers that's all Spanish, and I got to learn how to say stuff like pallet, paleta. So I'm already working on my Spanish degree, I guess. My key is 4-way, works good. Excellent, Mark. Nogales is sketchy at night, and that's what I was told, Dangerous Freedom, that they wouldn't even consider going to Nogales now. And they used to go, 30 years ago, they went to Nogales all the time, and they said it's not worth it now. Yep. Yeah, that's, like I said, that's why I wanted to do that video on that Silcock key. I was really surprised. A lot of folks that were on that video there, they like Sunset and stuff. They said they've never even seen one of those, and I was really glad that I did that video. Melissa's working on my Spanish too. Like I said, I didn't realize, how much I should really buy like a Spanish like workbook or something and read it, see if I can learn anything. Mother refugee wants to go to Scotland. Well, I tell you what, if you want to go to Scotland sometime, I guess I'll have to get a passport and go to Scotland. If mother wants to go, then I guess we'll go. It's about 9 hours from Orlando to Glasgow. Yeah, Glasgow, I think, is where they fly into. I've been told that before. I don't know. I'm not Scottish, but maybe I'd have to buy myself a kilt while I'm over there. Uncle Bumble wears his tactical kilt when we go out shooting, and he's got really nice looking legs. Travel is wonderful. Definitely go to Scotland sometime. You know what? Scotland would be right on the top of the list if I wanted to go to Europe. Scotland, Bavaria, and I've always wanted to see the Alps. So if I would go, I wouldn't mind maybe just seeing Switzerland, have some fondue or something. There's an app, you talk into it and it translates. Yeah, I was trying that. To talk to these people, but I don't know if they spoke a different dialect or if their hearing wasn't that good. What was coming out of my iPhone, they just were kind of like looking at me and shaking their head. So I didn't really know it. But like when I took the words and like tried to enunciate them, then they could understand a little bit. And like I said, they couldn't read the address. And I'm thinking to myself, which one of these big box stores would send this elderly couple out who can't speak any, and they're driving down the road, they can't read any English. It's like, I don't understand it. It's just crazy. Vicinator, Germany is my favorite. Berlin, Munich, Austria, Salzburg, Vienna, Budapest was gorgeous as well. And of course, Prague, all too expensive now. Yeah, I'd probably have to get a second job. Austria is beautiful. Austria, I'd maybe swing by. Maybe Glaston Glock. This guy, they got a museum or something there. That'd be kind of cool to see. Usually the apps do Spanish from Spain. So yeah, there's a difference. That's just like a lady I knew, she took French and then went to Quebec. And the French they speak in Quebec isn't like the French they speak in France. So then kind of the two didn't mesh and line up. Tammy, I saw three men wearing a kilt today. I said, I tell you what, Uncle Bumble's tactical kilt is kind of cool, but I don't like to take his, I don't like to take his gusto there, man, because I'll tell you what, he's got really better looking legs than I do. My legs look like bad chicken legs, but yeah, he's got them muscular, meaty legs, Anyway, he probably will catch this on the live stream and text me and give me crap that I said that. But anyway, that's the way that it goes. But yeah, I wanted to show you that there on the on those Baofangs, and it's been a different week again. I was really kind of, when they said with all them generals and stuff into coming back for that big meeting with the president and the secretary of defense and stuff, and then it was about generals being fat. So they spent millions of dollars flying all these generals back to a super secret, secure site to have a meeting saying that the generals can't be fat anymore. I don't buy that one bit. I don't buy that one bit. That was just a cover story if I ever heard one. I think, yeah, I don't buy that even one bit. I thought, oh, there's Uncle Bumble. He just got out of the shower and he heard it all. That's my Bumble right there. Yeah, Uncle Bumble. That man has forgotten more about bushcraft than I'll ever know. I just like standing by him, hoping I can absorb some of his knowledge because I'm like a dry sponge and he is like a spilt beer. I absorb all that information. Yeah, Vicinator, don't get me started on that meeting. How much carbon did flying all those generals take? Well, that's just how much money, how much did my tax dollars did it, take? Here I am, a lower middle class guy, and I'm paying, tens of thousands of dollars in taxes, whether it's gasoline tax or sales tax or property tax. I mean, property taxes alone, gosh, I bet you that I'm pushing between the house and our little piece of property. I'll bet you that we're pushing $3,500 in property taxes, and then they got your state income tax, you got your federal income tax. It's ridiculous. I don't know about all that. Oh, don't sell yourself short, Mr. Bumble. There, like I said. And if you've never seen my public service announcement, I actually keep Uncle Bumble in the back seat of my pickup truck in case I ever need a survival instructor, because he's always available to me. Then that's really the way that you need to do that. I should put a link in the description for this live chat afterward for that if you guys have never seen that. Dangerous feeding, but fulfilling your oath to the Constitution is considered insubordinate. A question for the ages. Yeah, like I said, that whole general thing that just reeks of BS. If I ever seen anything like that, and that's the other thing with this crazy heat that we've been having here in this time of year. I think there's going to be a lot of problems when that switches over to cold weather. People have been so used to the heat now. I think there's going to be a lot of people having problems with furnaces and stuff. So, if you're getting ready for the fall season, make sure that you have a furnace, you have a heater, you have a wood stove, whatever. Then now is the time to check that stuff, because the first cold day we have, the heating and cooling people, they are absolutely swamped with people because their furnaces and stuff don't work. It's the same thing with frozen pipes. That first day that we get a below zero day, the first things that go are frozen pipes, and the second thing that goes is car batteries. Yeah, that's what they said. Is that what they really said in the meeting, was about the generals? Yeah, that they weren't going to allow any generals to be fat anymore, or admirals, whatever. They were going to have to be hold to the same standards of the recruits or whatever, and have to take a physical fitness test. Hell, I thought they already did that. Isn't that what soldiering is all about? I mean, I've never been in the military, but I thought that there was like a standard for everybody. It didn't matter what your rank was, just like the Marines make everybody shoot Everybody's got to be able to shoot to a certain level to be in the Marines, whether you're an officer or not, right? So I mean that's crazy. Yeah, Uncle Bumble, I we should do a overnight here when it's still kind of in fall time. I actually got a place I think we can do that where there isn't any poison ivy. We should do a hammock hang for at least one night before the time changes and stuff. So you got to let me know if you think you guys would like to see a video on a overnight hammock hang here in the fall. Turbulent times, don't worry. 11% dollar loss inauguration plus tariffs. You're going to have a $20, 20% dip. I'm really surprised there hasn't been a larger fluctuation in the stock market, to be honest with you. Hey, Catherine. Yeah, I we should get out. We should do another quick camp out yet before I switch all my stuff over to winter in my pickup truck. Hey, Mother Clucker. What else did I notice as far as prices? There was a lot of talk about fuel prices taking a spike because of that refinery fire in California. I haven't seen anything here yet. All our prices on the fuel have been pretty stable, and they usually hit propane right about this time of year when people start getting ready to have it for their furnaces for the winter. Uh, I actually talked to a few people that were bow hunting, and they said that the mosquitoes are absolutely killing them. The mosquitoes have been absolutely terrible, and it blows my mind too because it was duck hunting started this weekend. The actual duck hunting season. It blows my mind how many people have boats and they don't keep them in good repair, and they'll find something broken on a boat and they want to come in and get parts and stuff and fix it before they go out on the amount of boats that are out there on the water that really aren't seaworthy recreational boats would absolutely blow your mind. It would absolutely blow your mind, and I would not go out on Lake Huron here and not have any type of communication equipment, because I'll tell you what, there's nothing worse than getting stranded out on the bay in a boat. Uh, and our garden is pretty well done. Folks, I know they're putting the garlic in the ground. Garlic around the 1st of October is when you want to put garlic in the ground, because you want garlic to be up about this much before you get a really hard frost. It can be up a little bit higher than that, but you want the garlic to be up and have its root system established before the first frost. Because here's a little something, I don't know if people know this. Every time there's a hard freeze, that's what helps form the cloves of garlic. Like if you plant garlic in the spring and you don't have any hard freezes, you're going to have one, maybe two cloves of garlic, and that's it. The freezing and thawing is what else actually helps form those cloves of garlic, if you guys didn't know that. Uh, Vic and Nate are saying something about makes you allergic to meat. I am convinced that Mother Refugee's celiacs, because she's borderline celiac. She doesn't have the definition. It's like, I don't know. It's like 230 is whatever the test has got to be for what they call full blown celiac, and she's like around 200. So she obviously has a very bad gluten intolerance. Yet if I go and I get some organic flour and I make bread with just flour, water, salt, yeast, and maybe like a kiss of honey in that. Mix that up, let it rise, put it in the oven, bake it. When it's about 3/4 baked, take a tablespoon of butter and rub it on the top so the crust gets brown. Take that out. She can eat that and it does not bother her. But if she eats store-bought buns or store-bought bread or whatever, it absolutely, and the other thing is pasta, it absolutely tears her up. So I don't think it's the gluten as much it is all the crap that they put in with the gluten into all the commercially made stuff. All that commercial made stuff is not good for you at all. Uncle Bumble's got a few got a few videos on his channel, and yeah, if you get a chance, go over there and look at some of his stuff. He's got a couple different videos that talk about putting patinas on a knife. Is one that's actually really good, and that's actually who showed me how to do a patina on a knife was Uncle Bumble. Already pulled the garden and tilled, planted our garlic already. Yeah, I got basically one more thing yet, and that's to make a big old bag. And that's probably going to be on my next day off. I'm going to pick all my red jalapenos, get them all in with some onions and some garlic cloves, and get that fermenting so I can have some more hot sauce next year. I actually had a lot of really good feedback on my hot sauce. I gave some out to some people to see if they liked it, and everybody said it was great. Only an allergist can diagnose. Yeah, we did go to an allergy specialist. Because I actually have allergies and I actually get allergy shots. That was probably the best thing I ever did as far as boosting up my immune system. And my allergy doctor is he would definitely basically agree with 90% of my viewer base here on what they think about certain medical things and stuff. He is right in line with all of that, and he basically gives shots for a living. So he has taught me different things to do as far as like using honey and like with my really bad poison ivy allergy, things that that I can do to um, prevent some of the symptoms and whatnot. Yeah, he is actually a gold mine of information. And never be afraid to ask your doctor questions, because I'll tell you what, ask your doctor questions, and then whatever they prescribe or whatever they tell you to do for different ailments, man, write that all down, keep that in a log or a ledger. So if anything like that would happen after an SHTF event, you have the same symptoms, you can look back in your logbook and find out what you did in the past for that. And so you can, kind of help and cure yourself if things like that happen. WT3TN just finished the deck maintenance. I'm glad to have you here, and the generator for winter. I got to fire my generator up. I haven't fired up my generator since the spring. I need to get in. Sunset, my doctor is stupid. Yeah, there are stupid ones out there, but I tell you what, if you can find a good one, they are worth solid gold right there. Yeah, it really speaks volumes that other countries don't allow ingredients in their stuff. It's true. I don't know why that they do that. I had an allergy shot in 2005 and had a 5-inch purple spot on my wrist. Never had another. Oh, my mother, she would have massive allergy reactions from the shots. She would have a big old, basically like a giant hive. But if my allergies were bad, hers were just completely off the charts. I mean, she was to the point where when she developed Alzheimer's and stuff, she was to the point where she was just her allergies were just off the chart. She was constantly sick. In fact, toward the end of her life, they had to pretty much just keep her on like these really high doses of the antihistamine stuff to keep her allergy down, because she had Alzheimer's, so she couldn't communicate, and then that would make her Alzheimer's symptoms go crazy because the allergies. Oh, it was a terrible time. It really was. Wood stove for 2 days and 80. Yeah, we're supposed to be back down into the 40s by the end of this week coming up, which will be nice because maybe I can get out and actually go hunting one day. I do have a hunting license, another thing that you got to buy, to stay in the good graces of the government. But yeah, this is kind of the time of year to kind of check out, your furnaces, make sure that your um, wood stove pipes are all cleaned out and stuff. That's something that's getting harder and harder to find, is replacement pipes for wood stoves, brushes, that creosote remover. Mom always would burn creosote remover a couple times a year in the wood stove. And what that creosote remover was, it was a chemical that they would put in the fire, and it would actually crystallize or harden the creosote in the pipes and the chimney. So when you brushed it out, it would bring more of that down. And Mom would usually do that right away in the fall, and then send me up on the roof with a sweepie to brush all that out and get all that out, clean the pipes, and it would make a huge difference on the draw on the fire in the wood stove, and the fire would just burn better. It had a better. MR and Mother, what's my favorite season? I like temperatures in the 50s and the 60s. So I would have to say early spring and mid fall are my favorite seasons because I hate 99-degree heat and 100% humidity. And I don't mind warm summer days, and I love a good snowstorm when oh darn, I'm stuck in the house here and I got to bake a loaf of bread or I got to bake some cookies. Oh, I just that breaks my heart that I can't go to work that day. Of course, now I only work a mile from my house. Probably wouldn't float now, but I love those snowing days when the kids had school called off and I'd stay home and bake bread or make granola in the oven. Oh, those were the good old days. Depression glass windows, yeah. There's actually a few farmhouses around here that still have depression glass windows, and they're basically like stained glass windows in a church. They would get them as a decorative. Sometimes they'd be at the top of the larger windows to let a little color in. Oh, those are the good old days. I'm reminiscing now about all the kids' snow days. Just going through my medical supplies, JD Prepping Erie. Yep, that's a constant thing. And I'll tell you what, if you do have an accident, you do have somebody gets cut or somebody gets hurt at the house or somebody was sick and you use some of that stuff, you got to replace all that stuff. I had a guy that I worked with, his wife got a UTI, so I let him borrow my bottle of D-Manos. D-Manos is a supplement that you take for UTIs. I said, well, I'll give you that bottle and you can just replace the bottle, buy me another bottle. And of course he didn't. And I forgot about it. And sure enough, somebody in the family here had started developing a UTI. I went through my stuff and sure enough, I didn't have it. I'm like, oh man, I got all this stuff here. And the one thing I want, I don't have. So the very next day I went out and I bought a 2 bottles of D-Mano, so that ain't never happening again. So even if I got to give one away, I'm going to have another bottle here. But that's exactly what happens. You use that stuff and then you forget to replace it, and then you got a deficiency in your first aid kit. And sure enough, Murphy's Law will make it happen that's the thing that you need most. Good night, Old Spice. 4 a.m. comes early. Yeah, good night. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate all you guys being here. Mid-state prepper snowblower starts. That's another thing. The snowblower is just like the generator. That needs to get started up a couple of times a year to make sure that you got that up and going. I've got actually a pretty good sized snowblower here, but my driveway is as small as it's ever been. So I don't really use a snowblower that much unless there's a lot of snow, because I can literally shovel my driveway in like 10 minutes. So it's just, and plus the exercise is good for you. Falling Skies Homestead and Preparedness. How are you doing? Falling Skies there is in Georgia. He has got a channel as well, and he does a lot of gardening and a lot of outdoor stuff. He is a really cool dude to check out his channel. MR, my cat takes that. Yeah, the D-Manos. Yep, the D-Manos is that's a good UTI home remedy. So like I said, if you guys never heard of that, that's something worth keeping in the first aid kit. Is it as effective as pure cranberry? That I don't really know, but those azo cranberry pills are another thing. I keep D-Manos, I keep the azo cranberry pills, I keep the test strips here so you can test yourself for a UTI, and maybe some fish stuff, but we're not even going to talk about that because I'm sure that would get me dinged or whatnot. But yeah, those 3 things for sure. The test strips, the D-Manos, and the azo pills are definitely must-haves for a SHTF first aid kit. Definitely. Melissa, couldn't imagine what it'd be like if it snowed here. Probably does snow up there in the mountains, though, in the Southwest. Get up in the higher elevations. I think probably it would be beautiful. Your desert one area, and then the other area, you got snow-capped mountains. You got a little bit of everything. Yeah, like I said, I think this year's going to be a lot like 2013 and 2014. We didn't have any snow. And we had pretty mild weather until Thanksgiving. Then we got a heck of a snowstorm on Thanksgiving Day, and there were cars in the ditch. And we didn't even get that much snow. I think we got like about 8 inches of snow, but the first snow of the year, everybody forgets how to drive from the previous winter, and people drive too fast. There's people going in the ditch. I think I counted something on that particular day because I had to work on that particular Thanksgiving Day. And when I came home, I think there was something like 6 cars that I seen in the ditch in like a 20-mile drive. So what is that? Every 4 miles or so, there was somebody in the ditch. Uh, Fish stuff was removed from our easy access. Yeah, I was expecting that happening. So the fish stuff I treated just exactly like I did ammunition back in 2006. Every paycheck, I bought a box. And that's how I got my stock of, SHTF pew pew seeds. Every paycheck, I would take, whatever, $10, $20, and I would purchase a box and I would put it aside. I did basically the same thing with the fish stuff. And I know that stuff doesn't last forever, but that is what you got to do. And the chase stuff, well, that's really cool and all. I looked into that stuff. That's like a couple $100 for, whatever, for one of those boxes with like four. And then, those medications that are in there, I looked at that. There's maybe 3 medications in that Jace case that I think we would actually use. And there's a couple that, going back through our medical notes, that we really have never been used or been prescribed those. So then those would be questionable whether or not I would even, we would even need them. So, it's kind of each to their own. I feel confident enough of, building my own first aid kits, what we need for what. And that's because I keep all those medical records for myself. It does in the mountains, but Phoenix would be apocalyptic. I imagine, just like it was down there in Georgia. They had that snowstorm down there in Georgia, and everybody drove off. Everybody was driving on the freeway. They got stopped. There was big car pileups. People were going off in the woods and then freezing because they didn't know how to deal with the snow and the cold. Oh, it's terrible. Hawk Myers Outdoor. Howdy, refugee. Just rotated my food stocks today. Important to do. Oh, yeah, definitely. Yep. You should go through that stuff at least about every 6 months. It's nice to go through stuff because you know what? I'll guarantee every time I go through my pantry, I find some stuff that needs to go away. I find some stuff that I thought I had and I didn't have. So then I got to replace stuff. And then I always run across some stuff. I'm like, holy mackerel, I guess I didn't realize I had 20 of this one thing right here. I guess we don't need to get that for a while, so I can concentrate on using some of that stuff up. So, there's stuff that needs to be pitched. There's stuff that you think you got, but you don't. And then there's stuff that you think you got a lower amount of, and you got way too much of. And, that's pretty much. Freezer's another one. Freezers really need to be gone through a couple of times a year too. In fact, when it gets cold here, I'm going to go through our freezer out there because I'm sure there's some stuff that found its way to the bottom that needs to be tossed. And all that's doing is taking space where we could have, fresh stuff in there, stuff that we could use. And freezers in general, too, have a tendency to get, if you're using them all the time, have a tendency to get trashed up. And it's something, like I said, about twice a year really should get cleaned out. Melissa, I can only imagine. Great birthday. Hey, John, happy birthday. Labeling and dating greatly helps. Yeah, especially anything home canned. Home canned stuff, you really need to write a date on. And I've been guilty of not doing that too, thinking like, I'm the one that canned it. Of course, I'm gonna know when it is. But yeah, sometimes you don't think you're quite as good as you think you are, and then that stuff happens. Vicinator, you take care. I appreciate you being here very much. Dangerous Freedom. Winter will be dry and cold, and then get bad toward the end. Yeah, March. I asked an older lady that we used to stay with up in the UP what the worst storm was that she ever seen, and she said March always had the worst storms that she's seen. So that's something that you got to kind of keep an eye on. Hi, MR. Flush my well pressure tank to get the muck out of it every spring and every fall. Yeah, and that's another thing too. People always talk about their water heaters. That's my emergency water, whatever. You got a 40-gallon propane or natural gas hot water heater. Oh, I've got 40 gallons of emergency water in there. Only if you flush that on a regular basis, because I don't care where you are going to develop sediment and stuff on the bottom of that water heater. And if you don't have a way to filter that stuff in your home, that water isn't going to do any good. And I guarantee you, if you go right now and you flush the bottom of your water heater out, you're going to get a bunch of nasty gunk out of that. And what I do is I take an old wash machine hose, because it's got two female ends on it, and I screw that on my hot water heater on the flush valve, because the flush valve looks just like a little teeny tiny faucet of one variety or another. Sometimes it looks like an actual faucet, and sometimes it just looks like a threaded spigot that's coming out the bottom of it. I'll put that wash machine hose on there, tighten it down, and then I hang up the other end of that wash machine hose beside it there, and I keep a bucket, like a 4-gallon pail beside that. 5-gallon pail is a little too heavy if you got to, lift it over stuff, whatever. So I keep the smaller, 3.5, 4-gallon pail. And then, when I'm thinking of it, I'm down there doing whatever, I'll take that down and I'll flush 2, maybe 3 buckets out of the bottom of that hot water heater to get that gunk out of there. And that way I've got that water available in there on top of the water that I actually got stored. But yeah, got to flush that. If you want to use that water for something drinking or cooking after SHTF, you really need to flush out that hot water heater. Inventory management has to be done regularly, or you end up with a mess. Yeah, and you know what? I've had canned goods go bad for whatever reason. You don't know. And sometimes I've had canned goods that went bad that were still good by the date. All of a sudden you got a bloated can in there. You're like, what the heck? Or you see some kind of funky stuff. I got 4 or 5 different, cupboards and stuff that we keep all our stuff in. All of a sudden you'll have some kind of weird stuff leaking out of the cupboard. You're like, what the heck? You look in there and there'll be a can that says it's good till 2026, and it's all bloated and the bottom split out and there ain't no rust or nothing on it. Sometimes cans just kind of go to heck. And actually, there's certain things that I've never had a can go bad. And one of them is canned lunch meat, your Spam and that kind of stuff. I have never had a can of Spam just spontaneously go bad. So I don't know what the heck they put in them or how their sealing technique is or whatever, but I've never had a can of Spam that went bad. I can't remember ever having a can of chicken with a regular, like the cans of chicken that are about this wide and about that big around. I've never had a can of chicken go bad that had just the regular seal on it, not the pop top. The pop top ones, I've seen a couple of them go bad, but I've never seen a can of chicken go bad that was in the actual can that's sealed. And that's another thing. If you really want to put up commercial canned goods, for long-term storage, you really don't want the finger pop tops. If you can get the ones that you have to open with an actual can opener, that's just a more resilient thing. Oh, happy girl, sorry I'm late. Oh, don't worry about it. There'll be another one. I enjoy having these weekly chats with you guys. It lets us chat about actual preparedness, a little bit of current events if there's something going on, and I can kind of share with you guys what I'm doing here, and some of the things that are working for me. I get to share the stories of the old timers, how they lived and survived, and home remedies, canning, food preservation, outdoor stuff. All this stuff is the stuff that just kind of spontaneously comes up in these conversations. I like these just freestyle conversations. You guys start talking about something, I can elaborate or throw my own personal experiences in with it. I think since I started doing these here, I think we got a really unique we have a really unique live chat here where we're just basically sitting down and have some water or tea or a cup of coffee or whatever, and it's just like the old days when the old timers would go a visiting. That used to be a term. We're going to go a visiting on a Saturday or a Saturday night or a Sunday afternoon. You'd have a cup of coffee, or you'd have some coffee cake or some cookies or whatever, and you just talk about whatever came up. That's kind of the good old days, and we're kind of reliving that now here, just with a modern way. Yeah, Spam, I don't think, like I said, I've never had a can of Spam go bad. Green beans with a pull top go bad before. Yeah, I have had fruit, I've seen, green beans I've seen, tomatoes I've seen, potatoes and stuff I have seen go bad. Remember how Spam used to have the key? Yeah, the corned beef that's in the can that still has the key like that too. Yeah, I mean, it's getting harder and harder, Catherine, to avoid the pop tops when you're putting that stuff away, but like I said, I try to stay away from them. My wife said the smell is the best indicator. Oh yeah, the nose knows. But yeah, the key on the Spam, like I said, the only thing I think that's got the key now is the canned corned beef, and that really isn't corned beef. That's kind of that shredded stuff. You really got to mix that in with something like some fried potatoes or something like that, and bake like a hash. And I've actually done videos, I think, on how to make your own homemade canned hash, but it's a long process because you got to cook the corned beef and stuff first, and then add the potatoes and stuff into it, and then can it all over again. But you can do it. Uh, oh yeah, the fried Spam sandwich where the Spam's fried crispy and a slice of fresh tomato out of the garden on some homemade toast with a little bit of mayonnaise on that. That's the bomb right there, and that's probably my favorite way that I enjoy Spam. Yeah, Hudson Valley prepping and survival. These chats are the best. Yeah, I really enjoy you being here, Hudson Valley, too. And like I said, if you guys haven't seen Hudson Valley's channel, he's a good one to stop by and say hi to. He has a lot of live streams as well. I try to pop on at least for a few minutes when the guys I know, like Hudson Valley, Prepper Now is another one. Prepper Dog. He doesn't do a lot of live streams though. And then the other guys that were on the Wise Men chat there, Roaming Preppers, another one I try to pop on, see him once in a while too. Like I said, I like having kind of an open conversation with those guys too, because it's nice to bounce ideas and experiences and stuff off each other. Makes for a better conversation, I believe. Yeah, Harry, I enjoy being part of this community. Life prepared. How are you doing? Ate so much Spam as a kid, I still can't stomach it. It was the same thing with me with French fries. They fed us French fries every day at school, and I didn't eat a French fry for, I'll bet you, 15, 20 years after school. I would not eat a French fry. And to this day, I still don't really order French fries. If it comes with something, I might eat a few of them, but I'm not a big French fry guy. And I like fried potatoes. I like mashed potatoes, but I don't know what it is about French fries. Monkey Lizard. I love Spam. Oh no, I don't think or Library Lizard. I love Spam, but I'm low class. No, don't think that way. Spam Spam supported the nutritional needs of the Hawaiian Islands during World War II. Don't ever think that Spam is low class. Not at all. Uh, Need another five. I should get a hold of Prepper Now once and see if he wants to do another chat like that again. He was the one that always facilitated that, and with those chats there, that kind of made me wanted to have these live streams. So that was sort of the birth of all this. Good live, CV Farmer. I'm listening in the background on the west side of the People's Republic of Michigan. Yeah, we're in Michigan Stan here. CV Farmer is another one of my good subscribers. Always has got good comments. Same Modern Refugee, all French fried out. Oh yeah, like I said, that was I didn't matter what you had French fries with it. I'm like, I didn't. You'd have pizza, you'd have French fries with it. It was like I just couldn't do it anymore. I won't eat peanut butter and jelly sandwiches anymore because I took one to lunch. Yeah, a lot of people are like that. They had stuff too much when they were a kid. Mother refugee, she doesn't like sloppy joes. It's the same thing. She doesn't like sloppy joes because she had it too much as a kid. And me, the one that I don't like is goulash, because we had goulash constantly when I was a kid growing up. Now, Hungarian rice I like, but goulash is kind of I don't know what you want to say. Goulash just to this day still doesn't do anything for me. Oh, I'm getting yeah. Keystone beef has fared well in my stocks. Yeah. I haven't really had any problems with any Keystone meat. I got some Keystone turkey once that was like clearance down to like $2 a can, and I bought like 10, 15 cans of it. I've never had any of that go bad. And back when the Keystone pork was still pretty reasonable, that Keystone pork actually makes a pretty decent barbecue sandwich, and it's easy to make because you can just heat up the pork. You can put some barbecue sauce on it. If you bake some fresh bread that day or made some fresh homemade buns, that is another. And then that goes really good with like homemade bread and butter pickles. I always try to cater my meals and the stuff I put up in my pantry. Like, what happens if I don't have electricity? What happens if there is some type of grid down thing? I still got stuff in my pantry where I can make actual meals that look like stuff that we normally eat on a normal basis to keep that certain amount of normalcy going on. And that is basically when I put stuff in the pantry, that's what I'm shooting for. Keystone is gluten free. The wife likes it. Yeah, I mean, if you read the ingredients on the Keystone, it's usually like beef, salt, and water, and that's or beef, water, salt. That's basically all that it is. And I enjoy that. Oh, there's Prepper now. How you doing, Prepper now? We the chatters out there are wondering if we're going to do another Five Wise Men conversation sometime, and I say, hey, I'm up for it, but that's a Prepper now thing. He's the one that always facilitates that, and I said I would ask him, but now that you're here, I'm going to ask you if you ever want to do that again. I'm certainly game if you can get the guys together. It's always a good conversation. 10 to 15 cans of hoarder. Oh yeah, that's not hoarding. Heck, I remember when my mom would go to the store in the fall time, she would buy bulk flour. She would go to the sugar factory. She would get, bulk bales of sugar, which was actually 50 pounds because it was 5 10-pound bags. And if there was anything that she wanted in the cans, like when Save-A-Lots were first around here, kind of like the precursor to Aldi's, the canned beans and stuff, that was like they were like 19 cents a can. Mom would buy just flat after flat of them on top of the stuff that she already had canned. So um we never went without food. We grew up Spartan, but we never starved. Keystone beef just jumped $2 a can. I believe that. I haven't looked at it in quite a while, but Keystone works for the meats never buy again. 2 cases went bad. Yeah, there was a time there where they had some type of issue where some of their stuff spoiled. They had several lots that were bad. I want to say that was maybe a year ago or so. Prepper Potpourri, I think, was talking about that. She's an older lady that has a prepping channel, and she I believe is from West Michigan, and she's popped onto my channel in the comments from time to time too. And like I said, I want to say it was her that mentioned it, or I remember seeing that on her channel. Can't stand liver and onions because of bad child. The only way I like liver is liver sausage, and actually did a video on that liver sausage. My mother refugee, I cut it in a tiny piece so I could swallow and not chew. Isn't that the truth? Isn't that the truth? But I remember this time of year, like end of October, first part of November, Mom, she would make several trips she would go to Save-A-Lot. She would call the farmer and she would get a quarter beef, and we would go over to the slaughterhouse and we would pick that up. And then Mom would take a jug of a homemade wine along, and she would give it to old Gene, the guy that ran the slaughterhouse. And then Gene would come out with a couple of rolls of sausage or some Braunschweiger or a couple of rings of homemade bologna or whatever. He would come out and he would give Mom that. They would speak German and everything would be hunky dory, fine and dandy. And then we would go to, there was a couple of stores that sold bulk food. And Mom would go there. She would buy stuff like macaroni, and she would buy stuff like flour, spices, anything that she would need from spices. She would get all of that bulk. But macaroni and flour, those were the two really big ones that I can remember. And this is on top of, the chickens that we grew, the potatoes, vegetables. I mean, we had these bins down in the basement it was basically like a workbench, but then there were wooden bins on top of it that had slats in them. They'd be filled up with potatoes. There'd be, strings of onions hanging on the opposite wall down in the basement. We actually had a coal bin, and the coal bin, because that house originally had a coal furnace in it, but that was taken out later. But then that coal bin, we used that to put in firewood. So then there was firewood in the coal bin. All the pint jars of stuff were in this kind of open air cabinet. It had didn't have doors on it, but that's where all the pint cans of stuff went. And then underneath was all the quart cans of stuff. Then I would go out and shoot a deer. So then we would have venison in the freezer. Mom would always have hard squash down in the basement, and the hard squash that she had were round and they were kind of flat and they were bright orange like a pumpkin. And I actually seen some of them for sale here just recently, and that's what they called them. They called them like decorative pumpkins or something. I'm like, dude, that's the same squash that Mom used to grow. I was thinking about actually buying a couple of them, getting the seeds out of them, and see if I could grow them next year in my garden, because those were the actual squash that Mom grew, and she always kept them because those would keep the longest. So this time of year, the basement in the old farmhouse was literally overflowing with food. Just up north, anybody remember the fall can go? Oh yeah, and they would have that at that Save-A-Lot too. They the stuff that was 19 cents a can would be 15 cents a can. Uh, oh yeah, yeah. Mother Refugee said I used to smoke turkeys in my smokehouse back when I was on the old place. Yeah, we would smoke turkeys in December, and this turkey would have to brine for about 5 days or so. So like Sunday afternoon or Monday night after work, we would brine the turkeys, and then we would drain them off on Friday night, and we would hang them Friday night, and we'd start smoking them Saturday morning, because they would have to smoke something like 18 hours, and it was a cold smoke, and you'd smoke them until they were a chestnut brown color on the outside, and then you'd let them hang, cool, and then you would take them down. But because it was a cold smoke, that turkey was still raw, so then you would take it in, you would put it in the roaster, and you would actually bake that. That was the best stuff in the world. And I just don't have a place to do it here because we live in town now. I don't have a place where I can do those whole turkeys. I would like to, if I ever figure out a different smoking situation around here where I can have an actual little smokehouse of some kind, I would definitely do a video on and show you guys how to do that. But I'll tell you what, we would always do those smoked turkeys for the holidays. It was definitely a holiday. Pyrex or Pyrex? I do not know, Sunset. I know that they can be broken, though, because I have broken some. I finally found a recipe for kale that kids like, shrimp and kale. Kale, if it's in soup, I like it. If it's in soup, I like it. If it's just by itself, I just can't. I just can't. Candy roasters, great squash for storing. Library lizard. I'll have to look those up. Purple kale grows by itself. It's almost a weed. Yeah, we got several different things around here that like I've noticed it around here. There's like a mint that comes up that's kind of like a weed. It comes up all over around here, and I'm thinking it's something that somebody had planted somewhere around here, and it went to seed. The leaves are a little smaller than what regular mint is, but it's got kind of a minty smell and a taste. And I've looked in different, books and apps and stuff to try to identify it. I can't really identify it, so I think that's what it is. Oh yeah, the chicken. Oh, that's another thing. I was talking about that with Gordy, a guy that's got a lot of chickens around here. He reminded me of something because he gets a lot of feed from us, so we deliver the feed out there for him and whatnot. And my mother had kind of a deal with a local grocery store. When I was a kid, she would go and get basically the spoiled vegetables, and she would bring them home and feed them to the chickens, and they would actually save them for her. So if there was like lettuce or tomatoes that were past their prime or whatever it really was, any type of vegetable, stuff like kale, anything like that, she would go down there. We'd go down there a couple of times a week, and they were in those cardboard boxes that were wax, kind of them waxy cardboard boxes. They would save that stuff for my mom, and they would set that out the back door of the grocery store. We would go and we would pick that up. We would bring that back home. We would cut that up, and we would give that to the chickens along with their regular feed. And they absolutely love those half spoiled vegetables. They ate every last bit of that. I mean, there would be nothing left. Like if you put a cabbage out there, there'd be like the core of the cabbage left, and the rest of it would be completely gone. They ate all of it, and that was just stuff that was going to be thrown out anyway. That was kind of how how mom and grandma lived and how they got their stuff going. Gourd, my grandparents made gourd potatoes out of sponges. Out of the sponges, look, that's pretty cool. Mint is crazy. I can't get mine to stop growing. Yeah, mint. Like I said, that mint that's around here, I think that was something that somebody grew and it just went to seed. Thanks, Modern. Keep up the good work from Iowa. No problem, Cody. I appreciate it. I hope you guys get something out of my videos. I hope I'm a value to the prepping community. That's always kind of my goal. You know, sharing what I know and keeping the old knowledge alive and these old stories alive, and just being a all-around benefit to everyone. Brings us close together as humans. We grew loofahs one year. Yeah, there's isn't there like a cucumber that's what a loofah is? It's a cucumber that they let go to seed and then they cut that up or something. I want to say I seen something on that once. Evening, y'all. Supper's ready. Thank you, MR. Yep, Monkey Food Garden. We're going to be closing this up here in a second, too. I appreciate each and every one of you guys. We went a little over, but I was really enjoying the conversation. I wanted to have a chat with you guys a little bit longer tonight. Haven't commented before, but great lives. Love these from California. Preventative measures. I appreciate you being here. I'm glad that you're getting something out of my live streams here. Like I said, they're just conversations between friends. That's how I look at it. Well, anyway, guys, we've been going on here for an hour and 15 minutes. I think I'm going to shut her down here. I don't want to take up too much of the airways, but I really appreciate talking to all of you guys here. I hope you guys got something out of our chat. As always, we'll do another chat next weekend on Sunday night. And I appreciate each and every one of you guys. And Sunset says peace, and I want to propagate that to you guys as well. Peace to everyone out there. I hope everyone has a great, safe week. Always keep your head on a swivel and keep an eye on what's going on. Keep your surroundings going. As always, you know, just put a little up. It's that time of year to put stuff up and to prep and store up for the winter coming up. But anyway, it's Modern Refugee. I appreciate all of my subscribers out there. Hope you guys always get some information, some entertainment out of my videos here, and you guys have a good one.